Hi guys, thanks for joining me. This tutorial is for our little mushroom set of templates that we recently launched in our autumn fair event. And as always, what I'm going to quickly do is just run through all of the tools, materials and equipment that I'm going to be using, and then we'll start making some mushrooms. I'm going to be using my foam mat, and then I've got my flat mat with my felt topper. I have my 40 spiral, my 38 spiral and my 36 star. I'm going to be using a multi-handle and my multi-punch tool. I of course have my trusty pocket scale for weighing out small increments of wool based on the template sizes, and I will be using probably a pair of snippy scissors. The wools that we will be using, or that I will be using in this project, are Storm, Off-White, Cranberry and Bright Red. You of course can tailor the colours to whatever your project is going to end up being. So I'm going to do that classic sort of red and white mushroom project for you today. The mushroom set is available on the website, and it's available as a single mushroom, which is this guy here. Then you've got the mushroom duo, which is this template and this template, and that comes with the frill as well. And then there's a combo deal that you can purchase all the templates together if that's what you want. Do please hit like on this video and do subscribe if you're not already. Hit that little bell icon, that'll notify you when we upload new videos. So that's everything for the intro done. We will hop straight in and start making some mushrooms. What I'm going to do to begin with is just pop up on screen the weights and measures for you. And all of the weights and measures for all the templates that we do can be found on our website. So that's www.mumsmakery.co.uk. If you click projects, infos and downloads, you'll see a link for weights and measures, and that way you can quickly look up all of the weights and measures for all the templates that we do. The mushrooms are, this is going to be an interesting tutorial because there's so many different ways that you can use these mushrooms, so it's really a little hit and miss as to what weight you're going to use for finishing off and for creating your vision of the project. You've got something like this, which uses this guy here, and obviously the weights for that are going to be completely different than the weights for something like this, where this book cover, you can see that the mushrooms are quite pronounced on the book cover, and this is going to be then different again than if you were doing something you know, even more 3D. So the weights and measures that I've put up are simply for what I would consider the base layer. So something like this. This is our natural linen, and the weights that I'm going to use or that I put on the website are just going to be for the base layer. So just to get you that initial base layer, basically. So there we go. So this hopefully won't be too long a tutorial, but there's all the weights and measures again. And as I said, if you want to hop over to the website, you can always look them up after the fact. So we're going to be making this little guy here, and then I've got some sort of little tips and tricks for you, and then we'll sort of have a little finished mushroom at the end of it. So I've weighed out my base layer of fluff, and like with most of the templates, what we're going to do is we're going to start by putting in the edges and then sort of fill in the little bit in the middle. Now I'm going to sort of replicate this here in terms of my end project is just going to be one of these little mushrooms on a hoop. And so you want something that is a bit rigid. There are the wiring holes. Where are they? Here they are. This one doesn't have a wiring hole, but yours will. They all have the wiring holes in the bottom, so you can strengthen if need be, and I'll go through wiring them a little bit later on in the tutorial. So I've weighed out my fluff with my pocket scale, and if you don't have a pocket scale, I really do recommend one. They are absolutely invaluable for weighing out the little increments of wool for petals and leaves. So I'm just going to start by breaking off a bit, and I'm going to lay the fibre down and let it overhang the edge, and then I'm going to run my needle just up that edge, just starting to bring those fibres inside the template. Very, very light stabs. I'm using my 40 spiral, which is my lightest needle. Pull off another bit, lay it down on the other side, run that needle along the edge of the template and just loosely bring those fibres in. And we're looking for an even covering. I'm going to move my template around because you will get a little bit, let me zoom in, you will get a little bit of fibres stuck to your mat. So rather than try to lift it and move the project, I'm going to turn the mat around a little bit just while we get that initial sort of spread of fibres. So this is, I'm using our off-white colour for this one. This base that I showed you earlier was natural linen. So very, very lightly, just getting those fibres down in the template. I'm going to turn it around now and work on my stalk. And what I'm doing for this bit is I'm just folding back those fibres, so I've got a nice rolled edge, and that's what I'm putting along the base. And there. And as you fill the template, you want to get your overlap. So the pieces that you're putting down, you need to make sure overlap the pieces either side of it. And the weights and measures, they are a guide. If you need to use a little pinch more or less, that's absolutely fine. Obviously, if you're doing something that's a lot more 3D, then you can absolutely do that, but your weights and measures are going to change. But it just gives you a good jumping off point. So they're nice and lightly, and all of the fibres are in. I'm going to grab my multi-needle and very, very lightly. Now I'm using a technique that I call bouncing off the mat. And what that means is as soon as I feel my mat, I'm stopping, I'm not driving in. Because all I want to do is felt the fibres to themselves. I don't want to felt it to my mat. Once this has firmed up, you'll find that you can be a little more aggressive with your felting and it will stick to your mat less. But particularly when all of the fibres are loose, we want to make sure that we're just felting them to themselves. So first couple of barbs on the needle. There we go. And all we do now is just tickle it off the mat. And you can see it's a bit of a mess, but it's all holding together. So I'm going to pop that back, run around the outside. Now I've done the whole thing white. You can put white in here and then do all red up here. Yeah, this is, they're great templates, but there's so many different options with these, so there's no right or wrong way. It really does depend what you're going to be doing with your project. So popping it back down in again, I'm going to firm this up a little bit more, still using that bouncing technique. I'm going to firm up the stalk a little more. There. Okay, give it a little wiggle and then it won't stick to the mat. Right, so that's my base layer, or what I would class as my base layer down. And I've still got a little bit of this over here, so I might thicken up that stalk as we go on. So what I'm going to do now is start adding some detail, and I'm going to be using bright red and cranberry, and I find these colours are really nice. I've got a 50-50 mix, and when you hand blend, I'll show you a little bit of hand blending, because I want this to be quite, I want the blend to be quite choppy, so I don't want it all blended. I want to see some very definitive colours. You take the colours that you want to hand blend, stack one on top of the other, then you grab the ends and you pull and stack and pull and stack. Turn it through 90 degrees, pull, stack, and you just keep going through this motion until the blend is as you want it. This one, I've got some darker areas and some lighter areas, so I haven't given it a really thorough blend, but that's not what I want for this project. I actually want to see some different reds coming through. I think the overhead camera catches it a little better. And then obviously when you're taking from your little hand blended stack, you can fussy pick out the bits that you want. So what I'm going to do is just start by laying down a little bit of this colour in the top. And just going all over. As I said before, you could have done this whole top part in red. A little bit more down the sides, and because we've done that rough hand blending, you will automatically get shades and tones across your sort of your project. So I'm just going to bring that very, very lightly again. I'm just laying down some colour. Like so. Just following that line. There, and you can probably see on the overhead we've got some really nice sort of shading for that mushroom head now. So that's a little quick tip for that. If I poke this out now, obviously we've got that sort of sandwich effect. Now if you put all red down in the top part, then you wouldn't have this. If you're using a contrasting colour and you just want to get rid of that edge, then grab yourself a little bit of your fibres, go around that edge, and then just bring them over, and bring them over the side like that. Felt a little bit on this side, a little bit on that side. This is going on a card, so I don't really need it on the back. If you are doing something that is going to be seen both sides, then I probably would recommend that you did this in all in red. But there's such scope for this, you know, for these templates and this project, that we wouldn't be able to cover them all in a tutorial. There, I'm going to put a little bit up there, just wrap that over, and it's rough as, because I'm going to put it back in the template, and once you put it back in the template, you know, it starts to redefine that shape, and that's the nice thing about the templates, you've always got it to go back to. Helps keep you on track. So there, that's that bit there. So I'm going to bring my multi-needle in and just start felting it down a little bit. I do want to add some more contours and shaping to the top part of this, and I'm also going to show you the frill on, where is it, on this one. This frill, obviously it sits, that's sort of your line up, so it sits like that, and you've got these as your point of reference, but you can use just a couple of these bumps, or 3 of these bumps, and make a smaller frill for this template as well. And this also makes a really sweet little wing. So there you go, very multi-purpose. So I'm just going to felt this down a little bit firmer, but I want this top part to stand prouder than the stalk, so we get some definition there. I'm going to bring in my single needle. Now I'm using what I'm calling a compacting technique, and it's just lots of very, very tiny little stabs, just using the first maybe 5 or 10 mil of the needle, and that will really firm up. Again, I'm still on my 40 spiral. There we go. And then once you've really started doing this, it's a case of just adding bumps and contours where you want it. I'll grab some more of my little hand blend. Now, in perspective, this edge here will come out and be closer to you because that's the center. So I want to bring this bit out a little bit more. So I'm just going to take a little bit of my fluff, and remember, it's always easier to add more fluff, and I'm just going to put it down in this bottom bit, just across in this line. There. So I don't know if you can see on the side camera, it's a bit fuller here now than it is down here. And if you want to put even more definitive contours, you know, you can put lumps and things and then give yourself a sort of a spread of fibres over the top as well, just to sort of blend anything out. So I'm going to put a little bit more down in this bottom part and really build that bit up. There. And then just run my needle over it, and then obviously because we've got more fibre in this part, it will naturally be higher than this. So then what I'm going to do is just make that a little bit slopey between the two, so there's a little bit more of a gradual, so it kind of slopes down. Bring in my multi-needle. I'm going to be felting this bit up here a little bit firmer, so we do get that gradual tapering. And this is really about just playing around and seeing, you know, what sort of shapes you like. Obviously, with the large mushroom, you can get quite a bit of sort of contours and details. So I'm just going to push the fibres back up that way. I'm going to come in with my little multi-punch, and again I'm just lightly bouncing off of the project. I'm not even going through to my mat. And if I take this out, you can see, hopefully, it's a bit of a mess at the moment, we've still got the refinement to do, but you can see it sort of gradually tapers, and you can do all kinds of fun things. I'm going to really give this some welly right around that edge. Pop it back in the template, get those edges back in, and you can see now that it's, yeah, there's a bit of a gradual incline there. With this, obviously, then just keep working over it and working over it, adding in whatever you like. So what I'm going to grab now is a little bit of the Arctic Grey, and Arctic Grey I didn't mention at the start, mainly because I didn't know I was going to use it. That's it, we're off script now. It's what, anything can happen. The off-white is nice, but it's a bit too bright for what I want, so I'm just going to add a wisp of this Arctic Grey, and that will just almost sort of dirty up the stalk a little bit, so that it's not as white. If you can see now just how that brings out, because the Arctic Grey, let's grab a good bit, it's not all one colour, you've got some real nice sort of different coloured fibres in there, so it's great for doing something like this. You can see just gives it that natural tones and shades. So there we go, there's that one. And I think I am going to add a little frill to this, so grab my little frill template, and I think we'll use those two. So I'm going to be using this bit here. I'm going to do this in Arctic Grey as well, and there's no real weights and measures to this. What I'm going to do is fold that and put that rolled edge down in that little bump there, and then grab another equally teeny tiny piece and put my rolled edge down in there, and then just make sure that you've got some overlap. And I'm just going to stay working in this part. I don't want too much fluff up here, but I do want to make sure that I've got two really good defined bumps. So just take a second to, let's pop that out and have a look. It's getting there. I think it could just use a little bit more. Right down in there. And I'm doing this quite speedily. You will probably spend a little bit more time doing this than I am. So there we go, there's my two little bumps. And then these are going to fit just there. So I'm going to take my needle, I'm going to catch these fibres, and I'm really going to drive through, and I'm just staying on that stalk, and it will naturally sort of curl that frill around that stalk. And I want to get this bump a little bit more defined, so I'm going to just push my needle, getting close. In fact, this isn't coming out too well because it's the same colour. Let me grab this a second. So what I'm doing is I'm just putting the frill there like that. In fact, so it's sort of like that. I've only done this bit of the template. So hopefully using that one, that's a little bit of a better visual of what's going on. But we're going to add some shading. So I'm using a nice driving motion. Like so. And just getting that frill attached. You can use all a slightly more contrasting colour if you wanted. I don't know how well this is coming out because it's the same colour as the stalk, but we're going to add a little bit of shading now, so hopefully the detail will come out. And for that we're going to use the Storm, and it's a very, very tiny amount. It's a few hairs just to begin with. So I'm going to take that up underneath that frill, and you can see you instantly get that sort of definition. Scratch a few fibres downwards, and then a few more hairs just under that dome. Just there. And again, just adding that little bit of shadow. And then a few more just to give some definition to those, the separation in those bumps. There. So I'm going to have one there, and then another. Just there. And all of this sort of little shading will really help give it that definition. So I'm going to perhaps use a little bit of chinchilla as well, which is a slightly lighter grey. And again, this one was not one that I mentioned at the beginning. But the actually, if I bring out the 3 greys that I'm using, you can see they make a nice sort of gradient of grey. And I'm going to use a little bit of the chinchilla just on this part of the stalk. You can see it just gives that sort of shadow and shade. I think I probably needed 3 of these little bumps under here, but you get the idea. I'm going to use my multi-punch on the stalk. Again, that tapping, that bouncing. And then I am going to trim off the really sort of wild bits. Nice flat needle, nice flat pair of scissors. There, we don't need that excess. Like so. So there's our mushroom starting to come together. I'm just going to make that indentation. So you've got that little nick in the bottom there. So I'm just going to make that a little bit more pronounced and bring some of the sort of darker colours. Let's have a little bit more of that chinchilla at the bottom and just up where that indent's made. Scratch over the fibres and just get them roughly in place. And you could do this with you know, browns rather than greys. I'm just going to cut off all of this excess that isn't attached to the project and just leave behind those little bits. I'm going to tap them all in. So I like the way that stalk's coming out now. And so all we have to do for this little one is make the little white dots, and you can do them not completely spherical, or you can, you know, do them more sort of stylized as an actual dot. Again, it's your vision of this project, and there are just so many ways that you can do this. To make the dots, you need to just pull yourself off a pinch and just roll it in your fingers. And there's no real weights and measures to this, so it's going to be a little trial and error. If the dot's too big, pull a bit off and then pop it back down again like that. And if you want one that is, you know, quite round, then just spend a second rolling it up a little bit better and just go in the middle, and that will help keep that round shape. If you want one that's a little less defined, then just roll it up and stab around and then you'll get one that is kind of a different shape. Pull off a little bit more. If you want one that's slightly elongated, roll it up and then roll it out so you've got something that's a little more elongated. A couple of little stabs at each end just to hold it, and then, you know, there you've got a slightly different shape again. So it is your artistic vision of this and what you want to do with it. You may be doing a completely different type of mushroom altogether, and you know, please do come over to our Facebook group, which is www.facebook.com/group/mumsmakery, and you know, come and share your pictures of your makes and come and join in the craziness that is our Facebook group. Because it is completely bonkers over there. They are an absolute bunch of fluff nuts. They just love all things fluff, and it's a great friendly group. Lots of people in there are, you know, sharing their makes and their experience. So there. This is now just a case of adding, you know, adding what you want, where you want, how you want. It's there. So that's my, I will add more dots, but I don't see the point in doing it on camera with you guys right here. So we've got some real nice sort of shading and grading with the mushroom stalk. The coarse hand blending gets you those different tones in your cap, and of course you can do that with whatever colour that you're doing. Let me bring this back in for a little bit of reference. You can see these here, and again we've got some of that grey shading, and this again, oh, wrong way, there's the template. So this one has been contoured very, very differently inside the template as well. So there's lots and lots of ways that you can do something like that. So what I've got to show you now are a couple of little extra bits, and if you are wiring, for example, you want something to be in an arrangement, if you wanted to do something that was a bit more 3D, then you would do this again, or this is how I would do it. I would do this again and then put the two together, and obviously you can make this more contoured and pronounced as you like. But if you put two of them together, the template means you've got some really good base shapes, and then you can make that, you know, more 3D. You can make it on a key ring. I think this one's going to be possibly on a card, or I might even make it a brooch. But there's lots of options. So this one I wanted to show you very quickly. This is just the base layer that we did out before, and I think for the large mushroom this is about 1.25 grams. And I did mention the wiring hole, so if you wanted something that was that had a wire in it, or a pipe cleaner, just something to strengthen that stalk, then all I've done is I've looped over the pipe cleaner at the top here, and what I'll do is just feed that pipe cleaner down through the wiring hole, put that loop, and if a pipe cleaner isn't strong enough, you can wrap, you know, a 26 gauge or a 24 gauge wire around this part as well. Again, it really depends what you're going to be doing with it. but a little loop in the top will hopefully save you some glue. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab some cranberry really quick, so we've got a good contrast colour, and lay the fibres down across your little loop, stab in the middle a little bit and stab around the outside, because you want to use these fibres to help anchor that pipe cleaner in place, like so. And then just get your, I don't have the natural linen to hand, but get your colour, your stalk colour, and then go down either side and just start covering and filling. Pipe cleaners are quite soft. If you wanted to do it with wire, wires will be a lot thinner. A 24 gauge would be more than ample, but the same principle, you just put your wire in, give yourself a loop, felt the loop in place, and then cover it over. That would need more wool in there just to cover the pipe cleaner, and that will anchor that wire in place and just give your stalk a little bit more rigidity when you're making that. I mentioned earlier as well that the little frill is designed to go over this one, and obviously with this you can have it either orientation as well, but there, if you had the whole frill, it sort of sits there like that. So really all I'm doing now is I'm just talking you through a couple of little extra things so that you know where this is at. So there, obviously that's designed to go on that one, but you can use a little frill on any, or just use part of the frill for any of the templates, and it all just sort of matches together, so you've got quite a lot of scope with the project. So there's that, let's get in another one of those. And you know, it really is such a great set, so infinite possibilities of many different types of projects as well, and it's autumn at the moment, so it's really fitting. That's really all I can do with the mushroom with you guys, because as I said, you're going to be doing infinite amounts of different projects with these, so hopefully at least it's given you a broad idea of, you know, just how to get the fibres down in the template and how to do a little bit of shading and contouring. So that's it from me for the mushroom set, and that is over on the website. Do please subscribe to the YouTube channel and give this video a little like if you haven't already. I really do appreciate it. It all helps the channel grow. Do come join us on Facebook if you feel so inclined. I do thank you so much for spending your time with me, and I wish you all a very crafty day.